is a good thing. You make use of your own background to do some new study. So this particular person who is asking the question coming from business, but what I see is very many occasions, if you come from medicine, people always think that they should do something medicine and Buddhism. If you come from law, they think that they should do something Buddhism and law. And in the same manner, so the person who is coming from business thinking that, I mean, in a way, I can see that, okay, you are making use of your own strength to, to be in a good, better position and then try to study Buddhism. So from that perspective, it is not bad at all. But at the same time, I want to say that simply because, I'm coming from some background, and also I see that some vague resemblances in the discourses. I don't think we can do a substantial research. Now, for example, if you want to talk about the sustainable business model or something, and also Buddhism. Now, of course, we know that Buddha did not have a concept of sustainable development or that time for economics. But even though the term is new, we can see whether really Buddha's teaching can be interpreted in that manner. In order to do that, the most challenging thing is, according to my understanding, you really need to go beyond the superficial seeming similarities and go into the very deep philosophical background of, what is the modern sustainable development as a critique of what does it come? What are the shortcomings it tries to address? And then you go the bottom of it. And then you get some substantial basis to study Buddhism. So therefore, I'm not economist, so I don't know anything about that. But what I'm trying to say to you is try to go deep into the philosophical or conceptual basis of modern economics and also the concept of sustainable development, how it is being practiced, at least in some areas, and then try to see whether Buddha has anything meaningful to say on that. Okay, thank you. Anything else, Vendabha?
Yeah,
thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Let me invite the Venerable Pinyananda. If you are ready, you can ask our professor.
Okay, there is another question. The question is, can you explain about in Theravada Buddhism, you think Mara evil one? Again, I wish I had time, but you have to arrange a separate session for this because, to talk about Mara, just a couple of minutes is, so I will leave that question. But of course, you know what Buddha Gosha says, and the different types of maras and all that. But what does it really mean? I think if I give a quick answer, I may be giving a wrong impression about my own understanding. So I will skip that question. Then another question is, you think, to what extent does the Western academic study of Buddhism reshape or reinterpret traditional understanding of Buddhist doctrine and practice? Actually, this is an important question. Now, when we talk about the practice of Buddhism, to my knowledge, actually the traditional practice of Buddhism, practice in the Theravada Buddhist countries, or for that matter, Mahayana or Vajrayana countries, I don't think it has been challenged by the modern scholarship. Now, modern scholarship looks critically, and as I said, also it tries to see objectively. But today, if we are looking at from a point of view of participant, not merely observer, but you are an observing person, but at the same time you take part, then, for me, I have not seen any substantial, any criticism coming, but people usually try to, they are happy with the practice. Now, for example, if you take modern application of mindfulness meditation, Satipatthana, now today it is being used by many, so many number of people, organizations, psychiatrics, and, all types of business people and all that, this meditation is being used. However, there is a question whether they are using it for right purposes or right mind. However, the basic practice remains the same. Now, we have to understand that today in the average, in the society, people are not trying to attain nirvana through mindfulness meditation. They try to gain some kind of mundane, day-to-day help from that. And I think it doesn't go against the word of the Buddha, because Satipatthana is also for soka pariddavanang samatikkamaya dukkha domanassanang attangamaya. So if we think that Satipatthana can help us in our dukkha domanassa and things like that, I don't think it is a bad thing. But today what we see is people try to patent it, and people try to do all types of things. Sometimes, that aspect is the one we need to be very careful. So basically, if you take the modern interpretation of the Buddhism, particularly in the mainstream traditions, the scholarship, I don't see, I'm subject to correction, but I referred to Sue Hamilton's work on Eye of the Beholder. Now she is trying to say that all Buddhists have got it wrong and there is Atmavadi in Buddhism. Now, of course, that type of debate can go on, because if anatta understanding is what we gain ultimately by practice, I think there is substantial room for the discussion and debate in that type of thing. So, but apart from that, I think critical understanding is this is how I feel, challenge the basic system of practice. Now, for example, if I give you one local example, I remember Venerable Jnanananda, who wrote Concept and Reality. He gives interpretation to the concept papancha. Now, papancha sanya sanka samudaya charanti. Now, for papancha, commentary says tanha mana ditti sankhata papancha. So the Buddha-Goshen interpretation is tanha mana ditti, papancha. However, the Jnanananda came up with this new interpretation. For him, conceptual proliferation, the linguistic aspect. Personally, I have a little bit of a problem with that interpretation. That's a different thing. But now here you can see that, what is the conceptual proliferation? And the interesting thing is, although Jnanananda comes with one interpretation, Buddha-Ghosha comes with another interpretation, I do not see, Jnanananda's interpretation ultimately interprets the nature of the ultimate experience to be ineffable, something like that. But about ultimate experience, of course, the Venerable Jnanananda doesn't have a problem. So therefore, lots of debates, I would say, peripheral when it comes to practice. Now, if a scholar can come and tell, look, guys, all you Buddhist guys have got it wrong and do it in this manner, you can't attain nirvana from this or something, then I think that type of interpretation, if at all something like comes, we will have to be watchful about it and examining it. Okay. Then there is another question. Is it possible to study and interpret Buddhist teachings in the context of modern psychological studies? Now again, this is Venerable Kusala. Venerable, this is an interesting question, but when we say modern psychological studies, we are making a very broad generalization. When we talk about the modern psychological studies, there are different schools of modern psychology, among which, the behaviorist psychology and, all types of. So the general answer that I can give you is Buddhist psychological teachings, Buddhist ideas can be viewed from psychological points of view meaningfully. For example, if we take one early Sri Lankan example, Padmasri De Silva, who wrote his PhD dissertation on Buddhist and Freudian psychology, he makes an interesting comparison between id, ego, and superego, and then the Kamatanha, Bhavatanha, Vibhavatanha, particularly Eros, Kamatanha, Thanatos, Vibhavatanha. Now, these are, of course, quite open for debate. But there are interesting ways to look at the Buddhist understanding of mind. But then, what is the concept of mind? That's again a fundamental question. So anyhow, my personal view is it can be enlightening in some points, looking from modern understanding, and particularly modern understanding comes in experimental research. So it would be enlightening. But only thing is whether we need to be careful about buying into all the categories. Now, for example, if we really buy into mind and matter kind of duality, the strict type of thing, then we are again in a bad situation. If you take Panchakhanda analysis, Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana, of course Rupa is there. But my understanding is that Panchakhanda analysis, Rupa is meant not because Rupa alone for human being can be meaningful without the other things. But of course, Rupa material world is there. But when it comes to human being, of course, it's always, although for analytical purposes, separate these things, you cannot really separate. So important thing is not to buy into the categories, all the categories imposed on those things, but be watchful about that. Okay.
Yes, at the moment, there are no question in the chat box. Therefore, you are invited to ask the question.
Yes, thank you so much, Venerable, to give me chance to ask question. Sir, I would like to one question. Now according to your discussion, you are talking about the methodology and conceptual studies. And nowadays, many students are using AI systems. So this AI systems, whatever we want to know, we can ask anything. So that AI system maybe it's dangerous for student or not. Why dangerous and what is the solution? I would like to know.
You are asking about AI, artificial intelligence.
Yeah, AI system.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. It is a very timely, good question. Now, actually, my first reaction would be AI can be a very useful instrument for us to use in studies and many other things. However, when it comes to academic studies, now when I look at AI, now the stage before AI was I go to internet and then I type something I want, and then I get the information I want, but then I have to sort the information out, and then I have to sift it, and then I have to use the information. However, with AI, you just pronounce the topic you want to study, and AI would give you a whole lots of the information connected to that particular subject virtually. It's like AI is doing your homework. Now, Venerable, this can be useful in many areas. However, when it comes to Dhamma, study of the Dhamma, now my argument is, I don't think it's, it serves the purpose. It is self-defeating, because ultimately we need to understand the Dhamma. So that you study and then you study the Dhamma and then you try to produce a research paper or your term paper or dissertation or whatever from AI. But then the issue is whether you really understood what you are presenting in your name. Now, if you did not understand it, then whole issue is what is your intellectual ownership of this? Are you the owner of this knowledge? Venerable, we talk about in Buddhism, Sutame Panya, Chintame Panya, Bhavaname Panya. Sutame Panya is the basis. Without Sutame Panya for you, you can't do Chintame Panya. Without Chintame, you can't have Bhavaname Panya. Now the problem is, if you are completely dependent on AI type external thing, then that knowledge is not really your knowledge. Then how are you going to think? With what? I mean, we cannot think in a vacuum. We have to have a background. We have to have some information. We have to have some data. And then based on those things, we think. So I think, Venerable, I mean, my view can be a little bit pessimistic in the sense, I don't think it really, augurs good for a particularly subject like Buddhist studies. But, if you are doing mechanics or, things like that and fixing watches and, stuff like that, I mean, and also there are many other areas which I don't understand, so I don't want to claim, I mean, I know that AI is a marvelous thing and, it could be useful medical science and stuff like that. But particularly when it comes to subject like Buddhism, where ultimately your own understanding matters, my question is, are you really responsible intellectually for this particular piece of information? Okay,
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor, for your explanation about the AI regarding the banana question. So secondly, I'd like to get the chance to Venerable Wanasiri, if you are ready. So now it's time for you to ask.
Thank you so much for giving me to ask question. So if time allow, I would like to ask two questions. So the first question is related to the concept of Buddha. So I would like to ask from two different perspectives. Firstly, in the Theravada Buddhism locate the Buddha a human being. But on the other hand, Mahayana Buddhism locate the Buddha superhuman being, beyond human. But when we look at the early Pali Nikaya, not only Pali Nikaya but also Agama, we can see that the Buddha belong to both characteristics, not only human characteristics but also superhuman characteristics. So my question is, why Theravada Mahayana locate the Buddha differently? This is my question, sir. This is my first question.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Venerable, that requires fairly extensive answer based on history of Buddhism in two different traditions. Now, the one way to understand why Theravada is, the holding conception of Buddha as a human being. I mean, basically we have to understand it in the historical sense. Theravada, Pali, and also, as you said, classical Chinese Agama, the suttas report a stage of Buddhism that's very close to the life of the Buddha, time of the Buddha, where Buddha was perceived to be a human being. However, the good indicator is even within the Theravada tradition, even within the this earliest available tradition, if I may put it that way, earliest tradition, we can see that gradually Buddha is being made to a superhuman being and also to a deity. Now, for example, in the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, Buddha says to Ananda, Ananda, my body is so weak, it is like an old bullock cart, the running with difficulty. Jajjara sakatang yakayati. Now, commentator Buddhaghosa, when he is trying to comment on this, he says that although Buddha said to Ananda that his body is like this, he says that Buddha had only one wrinkle on his back. And even that wrinkle was seen only by Ananda, because Ananda was, attending to Buddha's massaging or washing the Buddha's body or whatever. I mean, he was very close to the Buddha. So it is only Ananda saw that, and there was no any other sign of old age to the Buddha. Now, Venerable, we know that, this is a very different concept, because for the Buddha, if Buddhism is human nature, according to Buddhism is correct, Buddha being a human being, he is subject to Jati, Jara, Vyadi, all these things. But his Marana is not called Marana, because the death is not death in the conventional sense for an Arahant. Because what death means to ordinary human being like us is not for the Arahant, for the Buddha being an Arahant. So therefore, but on the other hand, all the physical things are there. So therefore, what happened is, this how Buddha was turned into a supernatural being has to be understood as a phenomenon that took place with the passing of time, where people wanted their religious teacher to be a superhuman, high person, transcending the world. Now, if you look at the good section in the Patisambhida Magga, in the Lokuttara Katha, there Patisambhida Magga gives an interpretation to Lokuttara. It's very interesting. The entire interpretation is that Lokuttara is something that goes beyond the ordinary worldly nature, not transcendental in the regular sense we are talking about God or anything like that. So therefore you can see that the very concept of Lokuttara was used in the earlier tradition. Buddha is like the living like a lotus beyond the corrupt world, something like that. However, subsequently, so therefore I think in order to understand how Buddha became such a being has to be understood with reference to the particular histories. Now, ultimately, of course, in Japanese society, Buddha became almost a savior god, and then living forever in Sukhavati Vyuha, and then living until the last human being dies. So the infinity. Now, if you look at really logically argue that the very concept that last human being, end of the world, will be meaningless. Who is the last human being? What is the end of the world? So it means that, in other words, we are saying that Buddha is eternal. So, this is far cry from, if we look at from early teachings of, the Buddhism in Pali, the Sutta and Chinese Agama, and to this later development. So therefore, I think what people needed was, in religion, the help, support, protection. Now, this is why theistic religions are very popular in the world. Now, you can see that at a certain point of time, Buddhists also being very ordinary people, they invented whole pantheon of God who can help you. But then in some cases, like in Japanese, I think Shin Buddhism, where Buddha was made virtually God, everlasting and savior God. So anyway, this is a very long story made short. So in summary, my answer would be we need to look at it from historical point of view as the responding to or result of ordinary human nature needing protection and needing somebody who takes your responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can I ask you a second question?
I cannot hear you very clearly. It's very faint.
Okay. My second question is about interpretation. So, in present time, many modern scholars trying to interpret the rebirth and karma. So, in India, Ambedkar Buddhism did not accept rebirth and karma. So, and also Western Stephen Batchelor, he interpret the Pali Canon in different way. And then he also reject the rebirth and karma. In Thailand,
Reject what? Reject
sorry?
what?
Reject rebirth and karma.
Didn't get Abhidhamma?
No, rebirth and karma. Karma and rebirth. But this Sunday,
Punap.
this
I'm sorry, I
Sunday,
didn't get that.
Punapua. Yeah, rebirth and karma. So, and also Thailand, Bhikkhu Buddha Dasa, he interpret dependent origination. So, according to his interpretation, dependent origination means only one present life. Dependent origination does not present a past life, future life. So, according to his definition, dependent origination refer to only present life. So many scholars, not only Western India, also Myanmar, they try to reject a rebirth in karma, Padisandi, Punabua. So according to Theravada perspective, we can call they are Buddhist or not.
Okay. Venerable, I will start. I mean, I will answer your second part, which okay, you say rebirth and karma. Now, if you take dependent origination, we know the traditional interpretation of Buddha Ghosha is Atite Hetavo Pancha, Idani Palapanchakang, Idani Hetavo Pancha, Ayatim Palapanchakang. So connecting past, present, and future. Now, that's where the Buddha Ghoshian interpretation. Now, if you read discourses in the, say, Nidana Sanyutta, in the Sanyutta Nikaya, and, other discourses, Buddha talks about avidya, paccaya, sankhara, and, so on, without making it very clear whether it is related to only this life or other life. Now, Venerable, I mean, like not only in Myanmar or Thailand, even in Sri Lanka, we had this, interpretation, and also in Sri Lanka, there was this one Venerable Jnanavira, the, English monk who was in Sri Lanka 1960s. He also had this interpretation. Now, the way I understand this, I think the dependent origination process, avidya, paccaya, sankhara, and up to evametasya, kevalasya, dukkha, khandasya, samudayo, hoti, I think can be understood both as a phenomenon that is happening at the very moment of our life. Now, in that sense, avidya paccaya sankhara, sankhara paccaya vijnana, I mean, we must be able to see that this is happening within us. So, in that sense, evametasya kevalasya dukkha khandasya samudayo hoti, the entire mass of suffering arises at this moment, in this life. Now, reverse order, evametasya kevalasya dukkha khandasya nirodho hoti, if you follow the path. So, I think if you really understand and practice Paticamuppada, it can be very correctly interpreted to be pertaining to this life. However, the problem is this: if you want to say that it pertains only to this life and not to the samsaric existence, I think that is wrong. Because if our human life, at the end of our life, if we can be satisfied that we have become an arahant and terminated our suffering, then we don't need to worry about Paticamuppada. So the Paticamuppada process, we went through it, understood, and so our story is over. But the problem is, the moment I am dying, if I am grabbing this world and if I am coming back, then obviously Paticamuppada process is needed for me. So I think the problem here is to say that exclusively this is only for this life, or exclusively this is for entire samsara. I think that is where people have gone wrong. Even this, scholars or people who, I can fully sympathize with the view that the process, how suffering arises right now in me, can be explained according to Paticamuppada. If it can be explained according to Paticamuppada, cessation also can be explained. Now this is how someone becomes an arahant. Otherwise, if Paticamuppada process cannot be terminated, how can you become an arahant? If tanha pacca padanang passa pacca vedana, vedana pacca tanha. Now every moment you have vedana, it gives tanha, then you have no escape. But at some point, some people are able to break the link. So for them, tanha doesn't give, So therefore, I think exclusive assertion is, according to my understanding, what is wrong in this whole process. Same thing with karma. Now, karma and rebirth. Now, a lot of people ask questions about skeptical questions. Now, it's very interesting. Even during the time of the Buddha addressed the skeptical people. For example, many people read Kalama Sutta, only the first part of Kalama Sutta. But read the entire Kalama Sutta. Ultimately, Buddha addresses this question. And also, I think, Veludwara or something, the way Buddha. Now, if you look at carefully, then you can see that to Kalamas, Buddha never wanted to make it a point to prove. Buddha has never tried to prove rebirth, because there is something that we don't see. So Buddha never wanted to prove it. But of course, for the larger majority of the people, it was enough that the Buddha said, and also it was enough that their life experience. So, they accepted it. But there were people like Kalamas who were skeptical. But then Buddha's point was, whether you accept rebirth or not, do the good thing. So Buddha went to the practical side. Buddha never wanted to theoretically establish that no, you really have to accept that you have rebirth. We have to understand this. So Buddha really, when Buddha was talking to people who did not believe in karma and rebirth, Buddha did not try. Buddha did not waste his time to prove it to those people. Because anyway, we have to understand the moment we believe rebirth, we are believing in something beyond our experience. Of course, logically, you can think that you will be born again. But also, we have a lot of empirical stories and evidence today. But leave aside those things. Simply, now what the Buddha did was, in two very good occasions, Kalamas and the other things, I think Veludwara, I don't remember, in the Majjhima Nikaya, you have this. Buddha said that whether there is rebirth or not, don't do bad things, do good things, and you will win both worlds. If there is a rebirth and the other world, if you do good, then you will win that world also. So I think that is what we need to take here. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. And now the last reason, Venerable Nanachara. So, Venerable Nanachara, you are invited to ask the question.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor, for your sharing deep knowledge about the Buddhist scholarship. I truly appreciate it. It's clear that the field is going through the many changes these days, as mentioned earlier, including the technology. So I would really love to hear your thoughts on that. In your view, what are some of the main directions of Buddhist studies is moving in today? So the reason I ask is, of course, I've noted that the recent scholarly works of the Bhikkhu Bodhis and Bhikkhu Naliars seem something new, and it feels like that may be the part of the larger trend. So what is your view on that?
Let me make sure that I got your question correct. So what you want to know is this rational type of interpretation of Buddhism. Where would it lead to? Or is that?
Generally the trends, like in what are some of the main directions of the Buddhist studies is moving in today's in the futures? Yeah.
Okay. Venerable, that's an interesting question, and also, we need to reflect on that. And I cannot give a kind of yes and no type answer. But your question, I would understand in the context of modern world we are living in, the direction it goes, whether a philosophy like Buddhism, has any room for any kind of meaningful existence or any kind of meaningful message to the world. Now, I think, Venerable, it's hard to summarize, but for example, now, if we look at the world today, now just let me give you one example where now I am talking to you over online, and then due to some camera problem, you don't even see me. I do see you, you look good. So, but you don't see me. Now, Venerable, we are still talking and communicating, but the world today is, representing something like this. We are physically not with people, we are virtually with people and talking. But for me personally, to be physically with people is very meaningful thing. Now, if I had the occasion to give this discussion amidst all of you, I think my vibrations, my thoughts, my feeling, my experience would be completely different. Now, another 5 minutes or something, I switch off my computer and I'm gone. You're also gone. But in other words, we didn't have actually human relations. Now, maybe somebody want to say, look, Asanga, you are very old-fashioned, this is the world. But no, I think ultimately human world becomes meaningful so long as we have human relations, human touch and anything. Now, whatever that, takes it from us, then you are just existing by yourself. Why do you exist at all? I can be a university teacher, I give all my talks in online, never see a student, know nothing. But then, why do I exist actually? If I am not existing in a context. Of course, we create our own context. If the context is not good, I create. So, Venerable, I see this from a very existentialist point of view. What happens today is like sometimes I see youngsters, girls and boys, in your age, they walk on the road in their, the telephone or that gadget in their this thing, and whether they are really actually talking to somebody or not, we don't know. But by doing that, they make a statement. That statement is, I don't care about what happens to others. I just, by myself, I don't care about what happens on the road. I don't care about who are there on the road. It's me and my this thing. But Venerable, that perspective is very scary. So therefore, I don't know, I'm answering to you, but the modern, the world we are witnessing becoming more and more individualistic, private. Ultimately, we are affirming Atma in the Buddhist language. Now, if you don't affirm Atma, of course, then there is a generality and, there's a reason looking at Buddha perfected paramitas, not for himself, and, all these things. I think the way we are moving to this individualism is, again, touches a very fundamental insight in Buddhism, namely Anatmavada. So I think we need to look at it carefully. That's what I have to say, but I don't know whether I really answered you.
Yes, almost. Thank you so much, Professor.
Okay, Venerable. Okay, thank you. Surely we should talk sometime. Okay.
Okay, Professor, thank you so
I think,
much.
Venerable, we should wind up by now.
Yes, Doctor. So according to our agenda 4, now the question and answer time finished. And therefore, according to our agenda 4, we have to express our gratitude to our esteemed speaker or the professor. And therefore, to express our heartfelt gratitude, I would like to invite our senior, Dr. Visuddha. Please teacher to our professor on behalf of our participant and organizer.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
can you hear?
We can hear. Yeah, we can hear.
Honorable Visuta,
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I'm
good to
here.
see you.
I haven't seen you. I haven't seen your face. Yeah, I hope you see me. Okay, I don't know how to say. It has been a while for me not to hear from our esteemed Professor Asanga. We have gratefulness to our Professor Asanga, especially me, because I was a student of him for almost 8 years. I spent 8 years when I did my PhD in Srilanka, so I have a very special memory with him. Before I give a words of thanks to him, one takeaway good message to us, I would like to remind all of my fellow junior students. This is my apology to Professor Asanga. I couldn't fulfill his wish. He always encouraged us not just to study Pali. He always encouraged us to study Sanskrit, Tibetan, and classical Chinese, so that we can make more conversation when we contribute our knowledge in Buddhist study and research. This is a reminder for us, especially for our now young generations of students. Thank you again, Professor Asanga, for reminding us to broaden our knowledge of not only in the Pali study but also in the classical Chinese and Tibetan and Sanskrit. And okay, now let me thank Professor Asanga for his always readiness, generosity to share his knowledge to our Burmese monks and Burmese community. When I was in Sri Lanka, whenever we have a seminar or a small or big event in Makura Ramadambe, whenever we invited Professor Asanga, he was always ready and generous to come to Makurarama to contribute his knowledge. And also when we invite Professor Asanga to come to Myanmar, he is always ready and generous to come to Myanmar to contribute his knowledge. And we can see his bone or his desire to make Burmese students expert in the area of Buddhist study.